crazy, okay? This is what really bothers me. I mean, I know men who claim to be Christian men who say that they would lay down and watch their wives be raped rather than defend them and have to, you know, maybe, quote, kill someone. You're not killing anyone. You're stopping. Let's share Bob Stalingrad, because we're going to get into the food thing at the top of the hour. Ladies and gentlemen, you need a baptism in reality. You need today, because actually on Friday night, and I was in contact with different people around the world. I mean, I can't tell you how close it came. Man, I can't tell you. The people, I can't know anything, Bob, like you couldn't unless people told you. But in your case, you've been to some of the you-know-what holes of the world. But just share quickly what happened to Stalingrad. And if this doesn't provoke every father, if this doesn't provoke every husband to determine my wife, my daughters, my sons, I'm going to focus on preparation. By the way, I would just change one word you're using. The end times are upon us. We're not approaching them, and it's now full bore. And I don't think that the reality of that will set in until basically either New Delhi gets bombed or, Pakistan, Lahore, or wherever. But please share what went on in Stalingrad, because you sent me that book, and thank you for it. But that really, I guess, as much as I've learned and known, I didn't understand how dramatically wicked that was. So will you just take a moment and, use good judgment, because we don't know who's listening.
In fact, Steve, I have the book open to that page. I was going to use that tonight, so it's fortuitous that you brought that up. And this was actually concerning Italy after the war, after the Italians had surrendered. The nation had been bombed into non-existence. There were no roads, no means of transportation. Everything was done by foot, and it was very difficult to deliver supplies. And this is a quote directly out of the book. And I want people to remember, this isn't some third world nation. Italy and Germany were the zenith of human development as far as civilization. The greatest artists, the greatest scientists, the greatest literary art people came out of those countries. They developed absolutely mind-boggling art and science, and yet they gave in to doctrines of demons. And in 10 years, they went from a prosperous nation to a nation that was absolutely almost non-existent. The country had been destroyed because they gave in to doctrines of demons. Here's a quote out of the book. And, Steve, I've seen this. This is concerning Naples. It says, in the whole list of sordid human vices, none, I think, were more overlooked than in Naples in the first few months after the liberation. What we were witnessing, in fact, was the complete moral collapse of a people. They had no pride anymore or any dignity. The animal struggle for existence governed everything. Food, that was the only thing that mattered. Food for children, food for yourself, food at any cost of abasement or depravity, and after the food, a little shelter, warmth and shelter. You read this chapter in the book, and the book is called The Moral Destruction. That's the name of the chapter. It's the book's The Savage Continent. Husbands sent their wives out to serve as soldiers for food. Parents sent their children out to do the same thing for food. The rate of venereal disease fell down almost into preteens because of what was going on there and the fact of how children had to feed themselves. And that can't happen in America? Well, today in America, over 1 million children a day have to sell themselves for basic necessities. It's just that it's covered up in this country. The depravity that brought judgment on Italy and Germany is here multiplied infinitely more. And if we think we're going to escape this baptism of blood, Steve, famine, pestilence, all the things that God promises he's going to bring on a nation that does what we're doing, we've been listening to the wrong preacher. And there's not too many of them out there that are telling people the truth today. And so the truth is, if you expect anything else other than the judgment of God on this nation, you're not reading the Bible I read. You're not listening to the God that I listen to. And any husband, I'll say this, that would not defend his wife, to me, I would have a hard time calling him my brother in the Lord. I really have serious doubts about it. Your wife is your body. You love it. You cherish it, the Bible says. And these men, and I've heard them say that I could not take a life, and if somebody was going to do that, this is God's will. You cannot even make any kind of decent case for that whatsoever. And it goes to the reason to be armed, because the first thing that happens when society breaks down, there's going to be an explosion of depravity. I had one guy who used to work for those people said one time we are a nation. I mean, you look at the top visited sites in this country. What are they? Porn.
Yep.
Porn. Gross porn. And then on top of that, the amount of violence that we consume, gratuitous violence. This isn't a movie about some, 13 hours where they defended a thing against bad guys. We're talking about violence for violence sake. You have people that have consumed this for decades now. Vile pornography and vile violence. Steve, what are they going to do when it breaks down? Take up knitting? They're not. They're going to act out what they've been doing, just as Lot, when he first went into Sodom, years before he decided to move there, he went down there, and he was attracted to it. And what did it do? It vexed his soul. It confused him. Today, we see this confusion in the church. People do not know what's right or wrong. They do not know what's up or down. And because of it, this is being sent to us by God. For those, and so those that have the ear to hear what the Holy Spirit is speaking to the church, I would say it's repent and prepare for the coming judgment.
Doug, do you want to add in there before I go into I would say this co-equivalent or covalent prompting to prepare?
No, Steve. Well, the other thing I can say is I think Bob really encapsulated a lot of what you and I have spoken about in the past, but the bottom line here is now is the time. If we don't begin our preparations right now, or make sure that we're prepared, there's no other time. I believe that to be the case. So no, I'm not going to. Now
I want to take on, and Bob, I'll throw it back. We'll go back and forth on questions, because these are questions that people are. I got one today from, and listen, there are people that are now getting it, and I thank God for them. But the number one question I get is it too late to prepare? The answer is absolutely not. Today is the day of salvation. The first prepper in the New Testament was the woman that sent her son out with the loaves of bread and fish that Jesus used to multiply on the Mount of, on the Mount where he's giving the Sermon on the Mount. And because she prepped her son, look what God can do with that which we do in faith. So first of all, preparation is not a denial of faith. Anybody who says that, you're biblically ungrounded, and you're probably lazy, and my guess is you're probably spending your money on stuff that you shouldn't be or could be spending it wiser. So Bob, let's talk about the idea right now that people can prep right now. So someone comes to you and says, Bob, and listen, ladies and gentlemen, it's not an infomercial. I've been accused of that for 25 years on talk radio. You sell fear to sell food. You sell fear to sell gold. You sell this, you sell that. What is it with people that if they're a plumber and they can charge $100 an hour or whatever? See, when you tell people to prepare, I think I got the answer from the Lord. He said, Steve, they want to be mad at you because they won't take personal responsibility for their own families. They always want someone to blame. And isn't that human nature? So, okay, somebody's listening tonight, and there's people listening all over the world. By the way, we just put this out, Bob, on Facebook, and, I don't have a channel, but there are channels that are monitored by my, overseers, and I'm sure you did too. But let's talk first and foremost about food, because the obvious thing is that you can still buy beans and rice, and just walk us through. You get a call. Bing, bing, bing. Okay, and what are you going to say? And obviously, I can quit with the rhetorical stuff. What do you tell people? Because I get it. I get people that are finally just saying, oh, the light has gone off, So what do we do? And I'm not mocking anybody. I'm grateful for everybody that is listening to this broadcast worldwide, that, as they say in Canada or in Britain, you can get an extra tin of food. But the point is, walk us through. How do you start someone? First, let's start with those on a limited budget.
Well, a limited budget, I would probably recommend they shop locally. You can do a lot, as you said, with rice and beans, a complete protein. I know Walmart has 12-ounce cans of chicken breast for like $2.50. Everybody can afford to put a little of that aside. It's not expensive at this time, but you you let a crisis happen, and we've seen it in microcosms of where you've had a disaster in a local city or even a state, how people gouge the daylights out of those that do not prepare. So you have a choice. You can pay a little now or pay a lot later. And the lot you have to pay later will not be little green pieces of paper. People will not want those. They will be trading commodities that are tangible. And so I would say this to the person that's sitting around their house looking and saying, what do I have that's tangible in my house? Do they want my kitchen table? Probably not. Do they want my car or gas? Maybe, yeah. Anything I have that's tangible that could be used. And again, Steve, one of the most difficult things that I had to deal with after I came back from traveling overseas was seeing women victimized. And I wasn't there to do anything about that, so I couldn't do anything about it. But, again, that will be the number one commodity in this country. And I'm just being as polite as I can. And it's going to be terrible for the person who thought, God will take care of me. I don't need to do anything. He's going to send manna from heaven and then come to these tough choices. So that's what the first thing I tell people is that. And then second thing, I warn them. There's so many out there that are just trying to get your money. I would rather see somebody prepare and do it right and not spend their money with me and find it locally and do whatever they can do. But the fact is that people are selling junk, empty calories for food. The one person called me up one time and they said, well, this man's food supply for a year has 1,500 calories in it. And I looked at it and I said, my gosh, did you look? There's 16 cans of orange drink in there. And these are number 10 cans. So he's just giving you sugar, and he's calling that calories. So the thing is, beware. Look at what your family needs. The protein, you will need protein. Now, you can get protein.
Are you there?
People prefer meat to rice and beans or even a combination of both. But be careful when you buy and that price looks too good to be real. For real, figuring it accurately, if you want 2,000 calories a day with meals that you will eat and not develop food fatigue, which we'll discuss in a second, you're going to spend $3,000 per person. Per adult. I mean, you're not going to get around that. I've added up every major Wise Food, Mountain House, Numana, all of them. If you want that 2,000 calories with a wide range of food that you're not going to get the food fatigue on, that's what you're going to spend. And that's the other thing I'd like to discuss is I discuss with people food fatigue. I mean, the children of Israel in the desert, manna again. Now, God didn't condone it, but it's psychologically what happens to people if you eat the same thing over and over and over again. You become depressed. And you become despondent, and you stop eating, and then when those types of things set in, you're just all but conquered. So you want to have a wide variety of foods that you normally eat on a regular basis, foods that your children will eat. You don't want to be giving them cream wheat every day if they've never even eaten cream wheat. You have to take that into consideration. And so, again, be careful. Because there's a lot out there.
Hey, Bob, let me stop you there because I want to make sure people understand something. I want to make sure they understand what you said is $3,000. That's on a yearly basis for an adult.
Correct.
Eating a 2,000-calorie meal. Now, you can cut it down to 1,500 calories, but I want to share something, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm not going to name any names, but I'm one of the guys that, brought Alpine Air and Goodnight Mountain House in a big way to America, and I can share this with you. Those guys, at least in their Stroganoff they give you, but there are companies out there. Bob, give an example of what someone, don't name names, but give an example of someone who claims that this is a 3-meal a person a day and what they charge. And you know what I'm talking about.
What they do is they actually say, we're giving you X amount of servings. And the way the verbiage is done, it makes it sound like, well, that's 3 meals a day times if they give me 15 servings, 3 meals a day, that's 5 days. No, a serving. And you have to really be careful to look at what a serving is because I know some of them are selling a serving as 100 to 150 calories. Now, we live in a society, that's how things are judged. And, with Mountain House, you're going to get 250 to 300 calories per serving. The thing is to be upfront with people. Don't let them think that, that I bought this many servings and so this is going to last a year. It won't. And also, if a collapse happens, a financial collapse happens, and you're having to take a lot more physical labor to keep your existence going, you're going to need more than 2,000 calories. You're going to have to find other ways to develop food sources. And so if you're getting one of these food supplies that people say is a year's food, and I've done it. I mean, there's some big names out there that you divide it up, and I'm thinking, they're getting 500 calories a day. Well, you're going to die on that.